Good evening and welcome. To every fellow Burnsian the world over, I wish to extend a warm welcome from Greenock Burns Club, the Mother Club. I am Christine Currie, President of the club, and I'm delighted that you are joining us this evening as we celebrate the life and the creative works of Robert Burns. In 1802, at our first annual celebration, club members raised a glass at the White Hart Inn in Greenock and toasted the immortal memory of Robert Burns. This year, on the 25th of January 2021, the tradition continues. It will be different from what has taken place in recent years, but still will be a celebration. Due to COVID-19, the pandemic which has altered everyone's life, strict social distancing has become the norm. So our plans to host 100+ people in a room, all eating, drinking and sharing in fun and laughter, whilst honouring Scotland's national bard, have been put on hold during these trying times. When the lockdown came into force on the 23rd of March 2020, science was playing a crucial role in the lives of people. But literature was still important, indeed vital, in buoying up our spirits. Therefore, we decided that some form of celebration was required to pay tribute to our club, honour the life of Burns, and enjoy his songs and poetry. There would be no dinner and no live audience, but thanks to modern technology, the event would be viewed throughout the world by anyone interested in joining us. We are holding it here in the Custom House in Greenock, a magnificent Georgian building wherein lies our archive and exhibition centre. Riverside Inverclyde, who own the building, have kindly given us access to other areas for filming and to comply with social distancing. And while watching, I can guarantee that you will be impressed with the magnificent architecture which provides a stunning backdrop to this event. An evening such as this should be remembered, and so all our members will be given a commemorative booklet to mark the event. Copies will be kept in our archive, as well as being sent to other clubs and organisations as a history of what was done by Greenock Burns Club, the Mother Club, on the 25th of January 2021 to mark the 219th annual celebration. So let the evening begin. We opened with our club piper, past president Billy McCready, welcoming us here this evening, and now we move to sangs and clatter. This evening we will be entertained by the two Andrews, Andrew McTaggart and his accompanist, Andrew Forbes. Both men are graduates of the Conservatoire of Scotland, and both have professional reputations that cover the length and breadth of Scotland and internationally. Andrew Forbes, at the age of 21, was appointed Director of Music at Glasgow Cathedral. He has performed as a soloist throughout Europe. Sadly, his 2020 tour of the Baltic states with the Latvian National Symphony Orchestra has been postponed due to COVID-19. Andrew McTaggart has performed many operatic roles with such companies as Opera Bohemia and Scottish Opera, to name but two. His concert engagements have taken him to the Edinburgh International Festival, Festival Hall, and the Royal Albert Hall. He also continues with his love of choral music in the role of musical director for Ayr Choral and the Greenock Philharmonic Choir. So to get things started, I am delighted to welcome Andrew McTaggart, accompanied by Andrew Forbes, who will entertain us with music and song.
We would like to sing Flow Gently, Sweet Afton. This is one of the first songs I learned as a lad when I applied for the competition run by the Bridgeton Burns Club.
Flow gently, sweet Afton, among thy green braes. Flow gently, I'll sing thee a song in thy praise. My Mary's asleep by thy murmuring stream. Flow gently, sweet Afton, disturb not her dream. Thou stock dove whose echo resounds through the glen, ye wild whistling blackbirds in yon thorny den, thou green-crested lapwing, thy screaming forbear. I charge you, disturb not my slumbering fair. How pleasant thy banks and green valleys below, where wild in the woodlands the primroses blow. There oft as mild evening weeps over the lea, the sweet-scented birk shades my Mary and me.
We'd now like to sing My Love, She's But a Lassie Yet.
My love, she's but a lassie yet, my love, she's but a lassie yet. Well, let her stone a year or twa, she no be half sae saucy yet. Arroo the day I sought her, oh, arroo the day I sought her, oh. What gets her needs not save his word, but he may say he bought her, oh. My love, she's but a lassie yet, my love, she's but a lassie yet. Well, let her stone a year or twa, she no be half sae saucy yet. Come draw a dram of the best o' yet, come draw a dram of the best o' yet. Gae seek for pleasure where ye will, but here I never missed it yet. My love, she's but a lassie yet, my love, she's but a lassie yet. Well, let her stone a year or twa, she no be half sae saucy yet. Whereof did I be drinking o, whereof did I be drinking o? The minister kissed the fiddler's wife. He could not preach for thinking, oh, my love, she's but a lassie yet, my love, she's but a lassie yet. Well, let her stone a year or twa, she'll no be half sae saucy yet.
Thank you. Greenock Burns Club is an active club with a long history, and history is important because I do believe that the past influences the future. Each year at our annual celebration, we toast our club, and this year I am so pleased to welcome Ronald Munton. Ronald is a Largs man, born into a family of music and Burns, whose mother's Gordon family has deep roots running into South Ayrshire. Ronald is a practicing solicitor, splitting his time between his office in Largs and his office in the city centre of Glasgow. He often advises that he is a partner in the firm of Rob, Steele and Plunder. But I shall correct that matter and advise that the firm is Low, Beaton and Richmond. Ronald graduated in law from Edinburgh University in 1971 and immediately entered private legal practice. So this year, 2021, sees him clock up 50 years practicing law. He assures me that having been practicing law for 50 years, he has now just got the hang of it. Something I am very grateful for, as he has just completed the conveyancing of my new home. Ronald is a twice past president of Greenock Burns Club and a past honorary president of Greenock Burns Club. So I now ask you to charge your glasses, sit back and enjoy the toast. Ladies and gentlemen, Ronald Munton.
Madam Chairperson, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, Burns wrote, "My father was a farmer upon the Carrick border, and carefully he bred me in decency and order. He bid me act a manly part, though I had ne'er a farthing, for without an honest manly heart, no man was worth regarding. My grandfather was a farmer on the Carrick shore. Indeed, to this day, my nephew farms at Craigington Farm, Turnberry, which lies in the parish of Kirkoswald. And as many of you will know, Craigington Farm was the birthplace of Agnes Brown, the mother of our bard. I often wonder at my nephew's farming operation with 350 dairy cattle and a milking parlour operated by computerised robots may be somewhat different from the farming operation carried on by the late Gilbert Brown when he was tenant of Craigington in the mid-18th century. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, I suspect Madam Chairperson has invited me to propose this toast this evening because I have much in common with Robert Burns. Robert Burns was born in January, so was I. Robert Burns was born in Ayrshire, so was I. Robert Burns loved the lasses, so did I. Robert Burns was the father of 15 children. I've got a television. I see that I was first invited to propose a toast at a Burns supper in 1975. And since then, it has been a constant round of speaking and performing engagements. Mind you, I realise that you have to be careful what you say at a Burns supper from the top table. Some years ago, I was speaking at a Burns supper in Beath when I happened to say from the top table that it was my firm opinion that the entire population of Kilbirnie consisted of footballers and hooers. And this enormous man at the back of the hall leapt to his feet and said, "Hey, you, my mother came from Kilbirnie." And I says, "And a damn good centre half she was too." Now, once you're involved in the Burns supper seasons, it becomes a most enjoyable involvement. However, in the mid-1980s, something rather strange happened to me. I was invited to propose a memory at Kirkcudbright Burns Club, and I shall never forget on that Saturday evening on 25th January when I stood up to speak with my back to the Solway, someone stepped over my grave. I do not know if it is a rush of adrenaline or simply nervous tension, but I shall never forget the moment. On reflection, I realised that I was standing up at the same time as a huge number of people were standing up to do the same thing, right around the world, like a Mexican wave. I think I had come too close to Burns. and I'm not superstitious, but I resolved never to return to the Solway again on 25th January. The merry-go-round of Burns suppers, club nights, Burns quizzes, overseas assignments, yes, Cumbria Burns Club, and other functions continued, and I struck up many great friendships through the Burns movement. However, for me, the pinnacle of all this arrived on 25th January 2000, when I had the distinct privilege of proposing the Immortal memory here at the Mother Club. Again, I can recall very distinctly the moment when I stood up to speak. I was momentarily aware that this man had stepped over my grave once again. I think it was the realization that here, within the Mother Club, the history and traditions linking to our bard took me once again too close to Burns. It is this long history and tradition of Greenock Burns Club which I am more than privileged to toast this evening. When you attend other Burns clubs around the country on 25th January and fraternal greetings are read out from the top table, it is the moment when all eyes turn to Greenock and the Mother Club. It is a source of continued admiration for the presidents and office bearers over the years that the foundations of the Mother Club have been strengthened and built upon. Most recently, the opening of the exhibition and archive room in Custom House, and the refurbishment of Highland Mary's Memorial at Greenock Cemetery. The sponsorship of the secondary schools, Inverclyde Secondary School's Burns Suppers, is another valued cause and dear to my heart because my own club's raison d'etre is to sponsor the local schools' competitions. For all these reasons, it is my great pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to ask you to be upstanding and join me in the toast this evening to Greenock Burns Club, close to Burns. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mother Club.
Thank you, Ronald. Every year, Greenock Burns Club sends a fraternal greeting across the world to kindred clubs, past honorary presidents, indeed to a multitude of people who are united in their appreciation of Burns. Perhaps this year, that greeting means just a little more. And our bard, Senior Vice President Iain White, will now read our fraternal greetings. Iain.
A new normal. We've had a blast o' January wind to greet our brich new year. It's hoped the year of 21 will bring us some more cheer than what the one that has just passed has left us in its wake. Pandemic, poverty, hunger, grief, near more than we could take. But clever folk who work with science hae toiled both night and day to find a cure, a vaccine sure to sweep this blight away. We now hae hope and see the light that beckons up ahead. So let us now seek better things and banish fear and dread. For human spirit will prevail, of that there is nae doubt. Our world can be a better place with brotherhood throughout. That needs us all to take the lead or follow those who do with kindness, love and honesty our gospel good and true.
Thank you, Iain. Never underestimate the power of words. This club is always touched by the many fraternal greetings that we receive from around the world. And this year especially, when we, as people, have been dealing with so much. the roller coaster of emotions that we've had to deal with, the constant adapting to new rules in order that we remain as safe as possible, have taken their toll, and these greetings have meant a lot. Knowing that someone is thinking of you and being given words of encouragement can boost your spirits greatly. And so I am honoured to share with you now a message from His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales.
Ladies and gentlemen, each year on or around the 25th of January, people all over the world come together to celebrate the life and works of Robert Burns and to brighten the dark days of January with a Burns supper. This year, of course, the coming together has to be virtual rather than actual, but the warmth, I'm sure, will be nonetheless. While Burns is Scotland's national poet, he is also an international figure whose poems have found a place in the hearts of people of different countries and different cultures for more than 2 centuries. With Auld Lang Syne, he gave us words which have become a symbol of fellowship the world over. And never has that sense of connection been more important than now. In many ways, Burns Night is a celebration like no other, Scottish to the core, yet of international appeal, for arguably no other poet in history has ever been so celebrated as Robert Burns. In his short life of just 37 years, Burns wrote hundreds of poems and songs, chiefly in Scots, which have not only stood the test of time, but which have inspired generations of people across the world to understand his abiding vision of human friendship and fellowship. Burns certainly had many friends in his own lifetime, but he now has countless more, and I know we all count ourselves among them, separated by time from Caledonia's bard, perhaps, but not by sentiment, and united in our love for the land from which he drew his inspiration. After Burns's untimely death in 1796, the date of his birth, the 25th of January, quickly became an occasion to celebrate the achievements of this genius who rose from humble circumstances in Ayrshire to create an incomparable literary legacy. From as early as 1802, Burns clubs began to appear all over Scotland, and soon members of the growing Scottish diaspora across the globe were proudly taking with them such classics as To a Mouse, Tam O'Shanter, and the timeless love songs I Fond Kiss and My Love is Like a Red, Red Rose. Over the 2 centuries since then, the essential elements of a Burns supper, addressing the haggis, toasting the immortal memory, and sharing his songs and poems with the aid of a dram, have remained constant. Crucial to maintaining this legacy is the work of the Robert Burns World Federation, which was formed in 1885 to educate, celebrate, and promote the life and works of Robert Burns, especially to school children, and to connecting more than 250 kindred Burns clubs across the world. While we may not be able to gather in person this year, we can nonetheless pay tribute to the memory of Burns in the time-honoured fashion. As we do so, I can only thank the Federation for its tireless work in protecting and promoting this priceless heritage. And I send all of you, wherever you may be, my warmest possible greetings. Now let me just close by quoting some words of Burns, which are this year more meaningful than ever, as we remember the fellowship we have enjoyed in the past and which we pledge to continue in the future. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind, should old acquaintance be forgot and days of Auld Lang Syne. For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll tuck a cup of kindness yet for the days of Auld Lang Syne. Slange.
Thank you, sir. Before we move on to the part of this celebration where we toast the memory of Burns, let us listen to our club piper as he plays a medley of Burns songs. I have been a member of this club for many years, and I was always aware that if the club did nothing else, it must toast the immortal memory of Robert Burns. This evening, this will be done by an eminent Burns scholar, Professor Gerard Carruthers. Greenock Burns Club is honoured and privileged to welcome him to this annual celebration, where he will propose the main toast of the evening. Gerard Carruthers is Francis Hutcheson Professor of Scottish Literature at the University of Glasgow. He is General Editor of the Oxford University Press edition of the Complete Works of Robert Burns, and is author or editor of 20 books and over 160 academic essays and articles. His co-edited Performing Robert Burns, Enactments and Representations of a National Bard will be published early in 2021 by Edinburgh University Press. He is the chair of Burns Scotland, honorary advisor to the National Trust for Scotland on Burns, a member of the Board of Trustees at Ellisland Farm and Museum, and the Research and Ethics Panel for Paisley Museum Reimagined. Professor Carruthers is a Fellow of the Royal Society of Edinburgh. So could I ask you to have your glasses charged in readiness, ladies and gentlemen, to propose the immortal memory to Robert Burns, Professor Gerard Carruthers.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the Mother Club, Greenock Burns Club. It is a long time ago, 251 years in fact, since a poet, John Wilson, whose dates are 1720 to 89, was apparently made to promise to give up his writing of poetry in order to become a schoolmaster at Greenock. This was in the late 18th century. In the 20th century, the town produced one of the finest of all 20th century poets, W.S. Graham, 1918 to 86, and Greenock, Inverclyde and Renfrewshire today all have a quite splendid literary heritage. Part of this has to do with the watershed that Robert Burns was for Scottish culture, most especially for the west of the country when he burst on the scene with his poems chiefly in the Scottish dialect in 1786. Actually, in the western counties, there was not much of a scene to burst onto. Song in Scots had survived, more or less, in the Calvinist culture of the west of Scotland, but poetry in Scots had very little presence. Rather, this was associated with the east and the northeast, with Episcopalians and Catholics, with Jacobites even, much more than with Presbyterians. It is a marked phenomenon how poets in the west of Scotland start producing poetry in Scots from the 1780s and beyond. Dare I mention Paisley, Alexander Wilson, 1766 to 1813, and Robert Tannahill, 1774 to 1810, are two of those writers in Scots energised in the aftermath of Robert Burns. We don't really have poets for Greenock and Port Glasgow in this period, but perhaps we haven't discovered them. Greenock, though, does here make a contribution, including through the establishment of the Mother Club in 1801, beating Paisley to the punch by over 3 years. Greenock also plays a part in Burns's biography, albeit in the most shadowy part of this. His lover, Mary Campbell, born perhaps 1763 to 1786, died in the town of a fever, waiting there apparently to be joined by Burns as they set off together to start a new life in the West Indies. Burns never sailed across the Atlantic from the town, and there remains debate over whether he was ever actually in Greenock. We still perhaps do not have complete certainty over all of the points around his criss-crossing Highland tour. We do not know for certain if he visited his patron James Cunningham, the 14th Earl of Glencairn, at Finlayston House near Langbank on the road to Greenock. If he did, has he scratched some words on glass with a stylus? There are many questions about Burns and the Greenock area that remain to be properly answered. Let's do some counterfactual history. Before pitching up at Ellisland in Dumfriesshire, where he took the lease of a farm and where Burns was also inducted into the excise service, the poet might possibly have ended up at Port Glasgow. We know from his letters that he eyed an excise commission here as an attractive proposition. Burns in government service based in Port Glasgow, with perhaps a farm somewhere near Kilmacombe. In Port Glasgow and Greenock, he might have met schoolmaster John Wilson in the final years of the latter's life. His rather nice poem, Wilson's poem The Clyde, first published in 1764, finally enjoyed some proper fame in the early 19th century. In Greenock, Burns might have enjoyed an elegantly unfolding new town, as well as intermingling with Gaels, the early beginnings of the Irish diaspora, exciting song traditions, churches and politics galore. He would have been conveniently close to the many poets of Paisley who admired him, and the city of Glasgow, whose university faculty included also many devotees of Robert Burns. Burns would have made many new and different acquaintances, but I think his poems and songs might not have been substantially different. At Ellisland, where he wrote Tam O'Shanter, we might remind ourselves that this poem, in fact, is set in Alloway. Equally at Ellisland, Burns's lament for Mary Queen of Scots and numerous Jacobite songs are about places other than the place that Burns is immediately situated when he's writing these texts. In other words, Burns's imagination stravaiged backwards and forwards and outwards, no matter where he was. No doubt the Clyde and natural beauty in general would have inflected his writing, just as the nearby river and the glorious countryside were present in Burns's writing of the Ellisland period, whether writing directly about the Nith or inspired to imagine, as he was in this Dumfriesshire period, the last 8 or so years of his life, imagining that his heart was in the Highlands. Burns is a great local, national and international poet, truly a world writer, someone whose writings about a particular place transcends that place, or at least reminds us also of other places. In part, this was because of the universal nature of the Romantic movement, in which Burns was an early mover. His love of people in songs such as John Anderson, My Jo, or My Love, She's But a Lassie Yet, or A Fond Kiss, spoke to the passion for people as well as natural environment that feature at the centre of the Romantic mindset. All of these songs have translated to Germany, or the United States, or China, or almost anywhere else you can think of. This is because, guess what? People are people. Lovable, but also sometimes vain, selfish, corrupt even. To be satirised in their hypocrisy, lacking charity while pretending to be godly, politically self-seeking while pretending to represent the public good. These are faults that Burns essays in his Kirk satires and in his political verse, where he observes drunken elections, venal behaviour and unfairness and many other things. In 1786, Burns's address of Beelzebub satirically expresses outrage at the unfair treatment of Highlanders. In The Holy Fair, Burns casts an indulgent gaze at folk wanting to enjoy themselves at a church communion and preaching gathering, when the ecclesiastical authorities would rather the people simply quaked in the face of the word of God. You're not here to enjoy yourself, is the message that Burns is countering, is against. And in his poem, The Holy Fair, the people, drunk, full of carnal lust and love, are described as blesseds. This turning upside down here of the language of religion is typical of the radical iconoclasm of Robert Burns, the man who observes in the Twa Dogs that dogs treat badgers better sometimes than humanity treats its own kind. This is again Burns, the writer of nature, but humanity is the species most often lacking in nature, man's inhumanity to man. It is this big heart and the failings of the human heart, including his own, which he wrote candidly in poems and letters, that helps make Burns's worldwide appeal. The headline of the Burns brand is pretty accurate. He is a great poet of nature and of humanity. He is perhaps Scotland's greatest songwriter, his work performed and set by more composers and musicians than any other. And this includes the greats of classical music, Beethoven, Schubert, Brahms, Arvo Pärt, James Macmillan, as well as those of folk and traditional and popular music, Jean Redpath, the Clancy Brothers, Sheena Wellington, Luke Kelly, and that list goes on and on. This is also where Greenock Burns Club and other Burns clubs come in. Their raison d'etre is to foster that fraternity and indeed sorority, brotherhood and sisterhood, that Burns helped paint for us in sharp and tender words and tunes, in artistry which is recognised universally the world over. In 2021, at least as much as in any previous age or any yet to come, we need one another, we need community and sociability. We need an awareness of our frail and strong human nature in all its virtues and in all its potential vices. The sharp, doomed love of the Highland Mary episodes in which Greenock plays a part, the port from which Burns did not sail to work on the slave plantations, the might-have-beens and the reality, the contingencies of human life which afflict us all as we make decisions, both good and bad. These are the certain and uncertain features of human life which Burns captured in his own biography and so brilliantly in his writings. We recognise that man to man the world o'er shall brothers be, that some power might the gift he gives to see ourselves as others see us, and that old acquaintance should not be forgot. We are linked to the past and to the future, to one another in the here and now, and Burns is one of the world's greatest poets of those bonds that link us all together, for good or ill. He reminds us that we should choose good, although often tempted to do ill. He helps us see inside our hearts, and there is little better a creative artist or any human being can do for us. Immortally, he remembers us, and so I'd like you please to join me in a toast to the immortal memory of Robert Burns.
The immortal memory of Robert Burns. Thank you, Jerry, for that informative and thought-provoking toast. It made me realise how much the words of Burns impact on life today and what an emotional impact he has. It is therefore fitting that we listen to his work, and I have much pleasure in reciting a slightly abridged version of perhaps the finest narrative poem ever written, Tam O'Shanter. When chapman billies leave the streets and drouthy neighbours meet, as market days are growing late and folk begin to tack the gate, while we sit boozing at the nappy and getting foo and unca happy, we think now on the lang Scots miles, them horses, watters, slaps and styles that lie between us and our hame. Whar sits our sulky sullen dame, gathering her brews like gathering storm, nursing her wrath to keep it warm. This truth fand honest Tam O'Shanter, as he frae air he nicht did canter. Old air wham ne'er a tune surpasses for honest men and bonny lassies. O Tam, hadst thou but been sae wise as ta'en thine ain wife Kate's advice, she taught thee weel thou was a skellum, a blethering, blustering, drunken blellum, that frae November till October, market nicht thou wasna sober, that ilka melder with a miller thou sat as lang as thou had siller, that every naig was caught a shoe on, the smith and thee got roaring foo on. She prophesied that late or soon thou wouldst be found deep drooned and doon, or catched wi' warlocks in the mirk by Alloway's old haunted kirk. Ah, gentle dames, it gars me greet to think who many counsels sweet, who many length and sage advices the husband frae the wife despises. But to our tale. Market nicht, Tam had got planted unca richt fast by an ingle, bleezing finely wi' reeman swats that drank divinely. And at his elbow, Suitor Johnny, his ancient trusty drouthy crony, Tam looed him like a vera brother. Well, they had been foo for weeks together. The nicht drave on, with sangs and clatter, and aye the ale was growing better. The landlady and Tam grew gracious, with secret favours sweet and precious. The suitor told his queer stories, the landlord's laugh was ready chorus, the storm without Micht rear and rustle, Tam didna mind that storm a whistle. Care mad to see a man sae happy, he drowned himself among the nappy. Kings may be blessed, but Tam was glorious, o'er a' the ills o' life victorious. But pleasures are like poppies spread, you seize the flower, the bloom is shed, or like the snow falls in the river, a moment white, then melts forever. Or like the borealis rays that flits ere you can find their place. Or like the rainbow's lovely form, vanishing amidst the storm. Nae man can tether time nor tide. The hour approaches, Tam maun ride. The wind blew as 'twas blown its last, the speedy showers rose on the blast, the speedy gleams the darkness swallowed, loud, deep and lang the thunder bellowed. That nicht a child micht underston, the deil had business in his horn. Wheel mounted on his grey mare Meg, a better never lifted leg. Tam skelpit on through dub and mire, despising wind and rain and fire, whilst holding fast his gid blue bonnet, whilst crooning o'er some old Scotch sonnet, whilst glowering round wi' prudent cares, lest bogles catch him unawares. Kirk Allowo was drawing nigh, where ghaists and hoolets nightly cry. By this time he was crossed the ford, where in the snow the chapman smored, and past the birks and Meeklestane, where drunken Charlie Brack's neck's bane, and by the whins and through the cairn, where hunters fund the murdered bairn. The lightnings flashed frae pole to pole, near and mair near the thunders roared, when, glimmering through the groaning trees, Kirk Allowo seemed in a bleeze. Through ilka bore the beams were glancing, and loud resounded mirth and dancing. Oh, the swats sae reamed in Tammy's noddle. Fair play, he cared na deals a boddle, but Maggie stood right sair astonished, till with heel and hand admonished she ventured forward on the licht. And oh, Tam saw a wondrous sight, warlocks and witches in a dance, nae cotillions brent new frae France, but hornpipes, jigs, strathspeys and reels, put mirth and metal in their heels. And at Winnock Bunker in the east, there sat Old Nick in shape o' beast, a towsy tyke, black, grim and large, to gie them music was his charge. He screwed the pipes and gat them skirl, till roof and rafters o' did diddle. Coffins stood around like open presses that showed the deed in their last dresses, and by some devilish cantrip slicht, each in his cold horn held a licht. As Tammy gazed, amazed and curious, the mirth and fun grew fast and furious. The piper loud and louder blew, the dancers quick and quicker flew. They reeled, they set, they crossed, they cleeked, till ilka carlin swat and reeked, and cussed her duddies to the wark, and linked at it in her sark. And how Tam stood, like ane bewitched, and thought us vera een enriched. First I caper sign another, Tam tint his reason altogether, and roars out, "Well done, catty sack!" And in an instant all was dark. Now scarcely had he Maggie rallied, when out that hellish legion sallied, as eager runs the market crowd, when catch the thief resounds aloud. So Maggie runs, the witches follow, with many an eldritch screech and hollow. O Tam, thou get thy faring. In hell they'll roast thee like a heron. In vain thy Kate awaits thy coming. Kate soon will be a woeful woman. So do thy speedy utmost, Meg, and win the key stain of the brig. There at them thou thy tail may toss, for a running stream they dawn across. But ere the key stain she could make, a fainter tail she had to shake, and Nanny, far afore all the rest, hard upon noble Maggie pressed, and flew at Tam with furious ettle. But little wist she Maggie's mettle. A spring brocht off her master hail, but left behind her ain grey tail. The carlin clocked her by the rump, and left Pear Maggie scarce a stump. Now, for this tale o' truth shall read, ilk man or mother's son, tak heed whene'er to drink ye are inclined, or cutty sacks run in your mind. Think, ye may buy the joys our dear. Remember, Tam O'Shanter's mare. No tribute to Burns would be complete without his songs, and so let us again enjoy the great talent of Andrew and Andrew.
We'd now like to sing Scots Wahey wi' Wallace Bled. I first came across this song when I was playing the Boran for the Bridgeton Burns Club's ensemble competition. After that, I got nudged in towards the singing side of things, and now I'm a singer. So it's a great pleasure to sing this song for you.
Scots Wahey wi' Wallace Bled, Scots van Bruce's after lead. Welcome to a gory bed, or to victory. Now's the day and now's the hour, see the front of battle, see approach Par Edward's power, chains and slavery. War will be a traitor's knave, war can fill a coward's grave. War's he bases be a slave, let him turn and flee. War for Scotland's king and law, freedom's sword will strongly draw. Freemen stand and freemen fall, let him follow me. By oppressions, wars and pains, by our sons in several chains, we will drain our dearest veins, but we shall be free. Lay the proud usurpers low, tyrants fall in every foe, liberties in every blow, let us do our deed.
We'd like to sing Oh My Love is Like a Red, Red Rose. This arrangement was composed by Head of Music at Scottish Opera, Derek Clark, for the occasion of when the Ryder Cup came to Glen Eagles.
Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like a melody that's sweetly played in tune. As fair art thou, my bonny lass, say deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gang dry, till all the seas gang dry, my dear, till all the seas gang dry, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gang dry. Till all the seas gang dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun, and I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands of life shall run, and fare thee will my only love, and fare thee will a while, and I will come again, my love, though 'twere 10,000 mile, though 'twere 10,000 mile, my dear, though 'twere 10,000 mile, and I will come again, my love. Though 'twere 10,000 mile.
The next item on this evening's programme is one that brings me great pleasure. It is the installation of Honorary President of Greenock Burns Club. There have been times throughout my life when I've had a close affinity with whoever is being appointed to Honorary President. In 1954, I was a mere babe in arms at home while my grandfather, John Macmillan, chaired the annual celebration and installed Professor John D. Mackey as the Honorary President. In 2000, I sat at the top table beside Ronald Munton, whilst my husband Alan, in his role as President, conferred the honour on Ronald. And it is indeed an honour, both to the giver and the recipient. Tonight, as President of the club, I am proud and delighted to award Professor Gerard Carruthers the position of Honorary President of Greenock Burns Club for the ensuing year. The title of an Honorary President is given to the person who has proposed the immortal memory at our annual celebration. The role is as a figurehead for the club, to be a key ambassador for the club, and to be supportive of the club in its aims and projects. Already, Jerry has fulfilled this role. When over 2 years ago, when I invited him to propose the immortal memory, not just because of his immense knowledge and worldwide reputation, but because of the sincerity and warmth that shone through when he spoke about Burns, neither of us thought we would be in the situation we are in today. I must thank him for his cooperation in fitting in with whatever plan we were following, and there have been many, in order that the immortal memory of Robert Burns be toasted on the 25th of January 2021. He has agreed to give of his knowledge and advice regarding some of the exciting club projects that lie ahead. It therefore gives me great pride and pleasure in appointing Professor Gerard Carruthers as the Honorary President of Greenock Burns Club and as an honorary member of this historic club. Thank you, Jerry.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of Greenock Burns Club, I'm truly honoured to be Honorary President for a year. Your club is old, which is good, but it's also dynamic, which is very good. And Greenock Burns Club, in its sense of fellowship, community and humanity, is a true and worthy Burns Club. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. No evening where we celebrate Burns would be complete without listening to his love songs. And this evening, Andrew is going to sing a song that is very dear to me and to my family. It rekindles so many wonderful memories of so many wonderful times when we were all together. A fond kiss.
A fond kiss and then we sever. A farewell, alas, forever. Deep in heart-wrung tears I'll pledge thee. War in sighs and groans I'll wage thee. Had we never loved, say kindly, had we never loved, say blindly, never met or never parted, we had ne'er been broken hearted. Fare thee will, thou first and fairest. Fare thee will, thou best and dearest. Thine bilk are joy and treasure. Peace, enjoyment, love, and pleasure. A fond kiss and then we sever. A farewell and this forever. In heart-wrung tears I'll pledge thee, warring sighs and groans I'll wage thee.
We are now going to sing Caw the Owls. This arrangement was composed by the English composer Benjamin Britten and premiered by the tenor Peter Pearce.
Caw the owls, take the nows, caw them where the heather this evening sang sound in Cloudon's woods among, then a folding let us gang, my bonny dearie. Ca the yows tae the nows, ca them where the heather grows, ca them where the barney rose, my bonny dearie. We'll gang down to Cloud inside, through the hazel spreading wide, o'er the waves that sweetly glide, to the moon sae clearly. Ca the yows tae the nows, ca them where the heather grows, ca them where the barney rose, my bonny dearie. Fair and lovely as thou art, thou hast stolen my very heart. I can die but cannot part, my bonny dearie. Ca the yows tae the nows, ca them where the heather grows, ca them where the barney rose, my bonny dearie.
Thank you, Andrew. We are almost at the end of this evening. An evening that has, despite all the hurdles, proved to be a success. Many people contributed to that success, and I now invite Junior Vice President Jean Abdulrahim to propose the vote of thanks.
Madam President, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted that our Burn Supper has gone ahead in this COVID year. It has not been straightforward. However, that makes tonight all the more special. Thanks to the key people who have helped to make this evening possible. Our subcommittee has been invaluable, and we're supported by David Martin from Riverside Inverclyde. Our photographs were taken by Alan Crumlish, and graphic design was by George Mackay and Andy Rogerson. The technical production has been in the very capable hands of Chris Bradley from West College, Scotland. To each and every one of you, thank you. This evening was very special, particularly receiving the good wishes from His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, and we were honoured to receive his greetings. An essential part of every Burn Supper is the skirl of the pipes, And tonight the pipes were most skillfully played by our club piper, Mr. Billy McCready. Well done once again, Billy. Music for the evening was beautifully presented by Mr. Andrew McTaggart, accompanied by Mr. Andrew Forbes. Gentlemen, we enjoyed it so much. Our toast to the Mother Club was presented by local lawyer, Mr. Ronald Munton, a past honorary president of the Mother Club, who gave the Immortal memory in 2000. So good to have you again and hear what you have to say about our club. Thank you. Our bard, Mr. Iain White, has this gift of setting his ideas into verse. The fraternal greetings are a much-loved part of our annual celebration, and it was so good to hear them for this difficult year. Thank you, Iain. The most important speech of any Burns supper is the Immortal memory. This year, our most recent honorary president has been none other than Professor Gerard Carruthers. Jerry combines erudition and scholarship with that gift of a down-to-earth style, which we can all understand. This flair for presentation resulted in a very special Immortal memory. Burns himself would have been proud to hear it. Thank you so much. Christine Currie is our multi-talented president this year. Our president, with her subcommittee, has been responsible for making tonight happen. She has been the producer. She has directed us all, chairing this evening in a calm, dignified manner. An experienced and gifted performer, Christine managed to treat us to a recitation, so completing a hat-trick of accomplishments. A triumph, Madam President. Let's leave the last words with our club bard. So, let us all make it our quest to spread these sentiments wide through Greenock Burns Club and beyond, across the whole world wide.
To everyone watching, thank you so much for being a part of our annual celebration. It has been my privilege to host this evening. Good night, take care, keep safe.